Hello everyone and welcome to a new video on the Colombians Football Report. Today we will be going over all the games that took place on day 12 of the 2026 FIFA World Cup. But before we get into the games, 83% of the people who view my videos are not subscribed to the channel, so make sure that you subscribe to the channel so that I can continue to grow and make better content in the future. Now, the first game that took place today was Argentina versus Austria. The winner of this game would be in pole position to top their group, and of course, Argentina were the favorites, and they got off to a better start in the game. They were attacking more, and eventually Lautaro Martinez found himself in a great position to score, but he was tackled from behind, and after a VAR check, a penalty was given. Messi took the penalty, and this would have been the goal that would have broken the record for most World Cup goals out of any player in the history of the sport, but he missed the penalty, and Austria early on got away with a huge opportunity. And Argentina kept attacking. Messi was one-on-one at one point, but he got tackled from behind by Alaba last second. But despite the chances that Argentina were having, Austria were definitely still in the game. They themselves had some attacks. They were getting into Argentina's box every now and again, and they were trying to create, but they couldn't finish any of their chances. And it got to a point where eventually Argentina went on a counterattack. Medina found himself on the left-hand side. He crossed it in. Almada, he could have gotten the ball, but he let the ball go through his legs because Lionel Messi was behind him, and Messi, he shot first time and he scored. And that was the goal that broke the World Cup record for most goals scored out of any other player in the history of the World Cup. He broke Miroslav Klose's record. He has 17 goals. Klose, he had 16. So it was a huge moment for Messi, and it was a huge moment for Argentina because, like I said earlier, the winner of this game was most likely going to top the group in just 2 games. So winning this game was very important for both teams, and Argentina taking the lead right before the end of the first half was crucial. However, in the second half, Austria, they didn't give up. They had their chances. They had a decent amount of shots. Same with Argentina. I would say they were pretty equal in that second half. But the reality is that Austria, they didn't have truly amazing chances. They had decent chances, but it's not like they were peppering Argentina's goal at all. Dibu Martinez still had to make some saves, but nothing too crazy. But if there was something, at least Austria at their back, they were fine. Argentina were not creating as much as they were in the first half. And there was a concerning moment for Argentina when Romero had to come off. I think that the injury is not as serious though. It was just a precaution, more not really an actual injury that forced him off. Granted, Otamendi came in and he did the job. Nicolas Gonzalez on a counterattack almost had a chance to score, but in the end, Argentina, they held on. And at the end, when all of the Austria players were high up the field, they went on a counterattack. Messi started it. He passed it to Alvarez. His shot was blocked, but then Messi was there to get the rebound. His shot was saved, but then he got the rebound to his own rebound, and he finally scored. It was a very chaotic goal, but that was Messi's 18th World Cup goal. So not only does he have the record, he's trying to expand the record, and he has been insane in this World Cup. All of Argentina's 5 goals were scored by Messi. That is just incredible. He's truly still got it. He is definitely probably the best player of all time. I have to admit it. I'm not even Messi's biggest fan, but the reality is that he's done so much in the sport now that I think it's really hard to argue against him being the greatest of all time. Obviously, Ronaldo and Pele are still in the debate, but I think Messi has that edge on them. And this is a good win for Argentina because thanks to this win, they knew that if Jordan didn't beat Algeria later in the day, Argentina would top the group in just 2 games. They could rotate everyone in the last game with no risk at all. And the stadium was packed with Argentina fans. They always have an amazing atmosphere. They always have amazing chants. So it was an enjoyable game to watch. And all things considered, this has been a better match day than the first one for CONMEBOL teams. Next, we have France versus Iraq. And it was always obvious that France were the clear favorites to win this game. Iraq are not even a bad team, but the group that they got put in is just so difficult, and it showed today. France were definitely the better team. I'm not gonna talk about Iraq too much because the reality is they didn't have many opportunities at all. In fact, the only one I can think of was Al Hamadi having a header, but it wasn't even on target. It was relatively close, but nothing too dangerous. But besides that, this game was all France. And Mbappe must have saw that Messi broke the record for most World Cup goals, so he knew he needed to catch up. And that's why 14 minutes into the game, on his left foot, he curled it in from outside the box. Mbappe already has two of the best goals in the World Cup in just 2 games. That is incredible. Truly, I don't know how he scored that with his weak foot. Absolutely amazing strike. And the assist was from Michael Olise. Granted, for that goal specifically, that goal was all on Mbappe because that shot from outside the box on his weak foot was incredible. And France, they continued dominating, but to be fair, in that first half, Iraq's defense was actually performing quite well. And they actually went to halftime 1-0. But here came the big moment of the match, and that was that. The game had to be postponed for many hours due to thunderstorms. This was always going to happen. This was because this is a normal occurrence in the United States. So it was just a matter of time before we would see this happen. But this is the first time that's happened in this World Cup that a game had to be postponed because of thunderstorms. So after a long time of waiting, eventually the game got restarted in the second half. And you could just tell France, they went out there even harder than they did in the first half. Iraq, they defended well in the first half, but in the second half they just couldn't defend as well as they did. And I mean, they basically gifted Mbappe his second goal of the game. A huge mistake with a back pass, and the goalkeeper from Iraq couldn't control it. It led to Dembele getting the ball. He crossed it into Mbappe and he just tapped it in for a very easy goal. And that goal that Mbappe scored, the second one, that means now he is equal with Miroslav Klose on 16 goals. He still needs 2 more goals to catch up to Messi in the all-time goal scoring record. And then 8 minutes after that, a brilliant pass from Michael Olise found Dembele into space and he scored. It's actually Dembele's first ever World Cup goal, which is quite surprising because obviously he's the Ballon d'Or winner. And it's kind of crazy that it took the Ballon d'Or winner until the age of 30 to score his first World Cup goal. But Dembele has proven that he is a bit of a late bloomer, and he's been so good in the past couple years now. So fair play to him. He had a decent performance, as well as Michael Olise with those 2 assists. The second one being much better than the first one. And Mbappe with 2 goals. The first goal was just incredible. He also could have had a hat trick, but he missed some chances near the end. But yeah, it was a comfortable win for France, and this put them top of the group. Now we're talking about the best game of this match day. Norway versus Senegal. 2 teams at a pretty similar level with one another. This game was basically to decide who would finish second place. And this game was played in New Jersey. Now I live in New Jersey, so I know what the weather's like. And the weather was bad in the morning, but it got better as the day went on. And at nighttime, which is when this game took place, there was no thunderstorm. So this game was not interrupted at all. But if it was played earlier, it would have been interrupted for sure. But in this game, Norway, they actually looked like the better team, which surprised me. I thought Senegal would be the better team because they have more World Cup experience. But they were clearly getting closer to Senegal's goal. That doesn't mean that Senegal didn't have their chances. They definitely were still in the game. It was very close for those first 40 minutes. But they had the best chance of the game. Martin Odegaard, he was in one-on-one with the goalkeeper, and Mendy had to make a brilliant save. Unfortunately for Mendy, that was the only good thing that happened to him today because he was kind of at fault for the first goal, and he also conceded 3 goals, and he got injured. So it wasn't a good day for him. And speaking of that first goal, it was Peterson who scored, who came in for the injured Ryerson, and he scored after Koulibaly passed him the ball, a huge mistake from him, and then he shot straight at the goalkeeper, but Mendy, he couldn't keep it out. So it was a huge mistake from Koulibaly and Mendy, but still a good moment for Peterson. He scores his first World Cup goal, and that goal was important. He gave Norway the lead right before the end of the first half. Then after that, in the second half, Norway, they went out there. Odegaard, he had the ball into space. He passed it to Haaland. It was the perfect pass. And Haaland, of course, when he's one-on-one, he's going to score. And that's exactly what he did. Norway had a 2-goal lead, and it really looked like Senegal were going to struggle. However, only 5 minutes later, kind of out of nowhere, against the run of play, Senegal, they got a goal to make things interesting. A good pass from Mane in towards the middle, found Ismail Assar, and he finished it. Good finish from him, and that got Senegal back into the game, or at least so we thought. because just 5 minutes after that, Senegal's defense was sleeping. Holland and Nusa, they both had a chance, but they kind of got mixed up with one another. But instead of getting that ball out, Senegal, they were still struggling, and the ball found another Norwegian player, Patrick Berg, and then he crossed it into Holland, and he ended up scoring anyways. So it was 3-1 to Norway, and it truly felt like at that point that Norway had the game sealed. Because this Senegal team didn't show the heart that I was expecting. And I heard that Senegal actually has many problems. Like there's some problems between the players and the coaches and the federation. I didn't know about this before, so it's not a good look for them. And for most of the rest of the game, Norway were controlling the game. They had a couple opportunities, nothing too dangerous, but they were still definitely the better team. The Norwegian fans, they were having fun with their amazing rowing the boat chant. It's so good. However, in stoppage time, out of nowhere, Ismail Assar, he scored again. One of the few players who could actually hold his head held high. He scored a brace. He single-handedly kept Senegal in a game that they shouldn't have even been close in. And Senegal, they tried to look for the equalizer, but they couldn't get that chance. And Norway ended up holding on, and they won 3-2. This is a big result for Norway. Because now, after this result and France's win earlier, that means Norway and France have secured the top two. Senegal can only advance as one of the best third place teams. Meanwhile, Norway and France will play against each other on match day 3 to decide who tops the group. That's going to be a very fun game to watch. Should that game end in a draw, France would top the group because they have a slightly better goal difference. So, France, they know they just need a draw, but Norway, they're going to go out there to get that win. So, it will be very fun to watch. And speaking of Senegal, like I said, they can only advance now as a best third place team. The same applies to Iraq, but they have it very difficult because of their goal difference. And even if they somehow beat Senegal, they will have 3 points, but with a very bad goal difference. They would need to hope that 4 teams manage to not get 3 points at least. Because if that doesn't happen, then I'm pretty sure Iraq will get eliminated. Because that goal difference will definitely be one of the worst out of all of the third place teams. And if they draw, they're just both eliminated without a shadow of a doubt. So Senegal, they really need to win, and they need to win big. Granted, both France and Norway were able to win big against Iraq, so maybe Senegal can do the same. But they obviously have many problems right now, so who knows if they can even do that. And it's not like Iraq are just gonna let themselves get rolled over by Senegal because they themselves still have the chance to finish third. So it will also be a very competitive game. But if Senegal get grouped, they would be another potential dark horse that everyone was talking about that would have failed. And I would say it would be even worse than Turkey and Ecuador because with the thing with Senegal, they have a lot of World Cup experience. They are the African champions. I don't care what they say about Morocco. For me, Senegal is still the African champion. So if they got grouped against Norway and Iraq, two teams that haven't been in the World Cup in so long, it would be very embarrassing for them. So we have to see what happens. I think Senegal will win, but you cannot be confident anymore because this team, they show that they have their problems. Now the final game that took place today was in Santa Clara between Jordan and Algeria. These two teams lost their first game, so they both needed to win, and especially Jordan because if Jordan lost, they would get eliminated. And unfortunately for Jordan, that is exactly what happened. Jordan are now the fourth team to get eliminated from the World Cup, and they're the first Asian team to get eliminated. However, things were going good for them. In the first half, it was obvious that of course Algeria had more possession, but that doesn't mean they were the better team because at that point Jordan were defending quite well, and every time they went on a counterattack, it looked very dangerous. And they kept to that game plan, and eventually they ended up scoring. Al Rashdan, he gave Jordan the 1-0 lead for the first time ever in the World Cup. Jordan had the lead in the game. And even to end the first half, they were pressuring Algeria. It honestly looked like they could have scored another one. But Algeria managed to hold on, and that was crucial. They needed to hold on until halftime. Because if it was 1-0, they could still make the comeback. If it was 2-0, it would have been insanely difficult. But Algeria, in the second half, they were a completely different team. They went out there. They tried their best to score the equalizing goal, and after getting some chances where the goalkeeper of Jordan had to make multiple saves, eventually they finally scored. The striker they brought off the bench, Ben Boulaye, he scored a fantastic header to score Algeria's first goal of the 2026 FIFA World Cup. And that was a crucial goal to equalize the game. Great cross from Riyad Mahrez. And from that moment on, it looked very obvious that Jordan on set pieces were not good. And that is exactly how Algeria scored their second goal. Again, another set piece, another corner from the same exact side. It came in, a player, he headed the ball, and it came into the path of Guri. And Guri, he just bundled the ball in. It took a slight deflection off the goalkeeper and the defender, but it still managed to make its way in. And he jumped over the advertisement board. He went to celebrate with the fans. Very good moment for him and for Algeria. And after that goal, Jordan was shell shocked. They couldn't do anything. Of course, after that, Algeria, they didn't really attack. But Jordan, when they needed to attack to equalize, they couldn't form anything. The rest of the game, they just kept on making mistakes, failing simple passes, and they ended up getting eliminated. And the same exact thing happened in the first game. Jordan, they played well, but they couldn't close out the game, and that is why they have been eliminated. But I still think it was an honorable effort from them, and I would be very interested to see how they can do if they qualify in 2030, because this team definitely has a good future ahead of themselves. So, as a result of Algeria winning, like I mentioned earlier, the only way Argentina would not top the group is that Jordan win this game, because that meant that if Jordan won the next game against Argentina, Jordan would have finished first. But after this result is done, Argentina have sealed first place, so they can rotate in the next game. That game against Argentina and Jordan will be a glorified friendly match, because Jordan are guaranteed to finish fourth and Argentina are guaranteed to finish first. The game to watch is Austria versus Algeria. This will be a very good game to watch. Algeria has bad history with Austria in football. In 1982, the disgrace of Gijón happened, where Austria basically fixed the game to eliminate Algeria. And now, all these years later, Algeria finally have the chance to get their revenge. And they're going to go all out to get that revenge. I'm sure this will not be a game where both teams will agree to tie the game so that they can both go through. I'm sure that's not going to happen. They're both going to go to try to win the game. So it'll be a very fun game to watch. And I honestly struggle to see who could be the one who wins that game. I think Austria are slightly better, but that doesn't mean that Algeria are not going to win, because they definitely can. They have good attacking talent. Their young player Massa, who plays in Leverkusen, in the second half today, I thought he was very good. He's a player to watch out for. So that is it with the recap of day 12 of the 2026 FIFA World Cup. Make sure you like the video. Make sure you subscribe to the channel, like I said earlier. I have nothing more to say, and have a good night, everyone.